Looking, it says we are live. It's all
Good
the way
morning,
live.
friends.
Good morning, people. Good morning. Good morning. As I try to find you on my phone so I can see any messages that come up, there we are.
Welcome to the Monday Morning Shuffle.
Yeah. Let's share this around a little bit. How y'all doing? I almost sent this to you to share it to you. It's like, but that doesn't work. Uh,
You send me things all the time, and I'm
I
like,
know.
what?
It's crazy how I do that.
The
My,
funny thing is, I'm never on Instagram, which is where you typically send them. And so I don't see them for days at a time. And then I'm like, oh, hey, look, there are four things here. And that one's expired because it was a story. If you send me a story, you have to text me and tell me. Otherwise, I won't see it until it's expired. I'm never on Instagram anymore.
you're never on Instagram anymore? You don't use Instagram?
Not really. It's in my focus mode apps. It's one of those apps that I will tumble down a rabbit hole of like reading stuff and I
Uh-huh.
won't get anything done. It's not like I replaced it with anything productive. I just replaced it with TikTok. I still don't get anything done. Um, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get out of here. So okay, turn this volume down. Okay. So some of you guys might have noticed, especially Facebook book users, uh, that I put things
Facebook.
all things death. And I know people are like, well, it's the holidays. Well, I got into this because if you leave me to myself for any amount of hours, and sometimes in the morning when I wake up, I do this thing where I hang out with these things called entities. And in the process of doing that, I sometimes start to pick up information. And during the holidays, I started to pick up a lot of people's sadness and blindness. And there's a multiple amount of reasons why people feel that. And it's almost like I was talking to a friend of mine on the East Coast this morning, and it was like the yuckiness that you can perceive from people during, like we were Tori yesterday. I did this recording, and I wanted to have a Santa hat. I'm gonna start wearing my Santa hat because people like, oh, you look like the Black Santa Claus. So I have this beard, so I bought the Santa hat. And so we went to Walmart, which I never fucking go to that store. And I know why I don't go to that store, because no ding on people, but they peoples. And we were driving, and I let somebody cross the sidewalk. Now I'm not gonna run somebody the fuck over. And it was a husband, my perception of a husband and a wife and a son. And when you look in the face, if there was like, how cartoons have the character and they have the little speech, you see him say, I hate this bitch. You see her say, he's such a fucking asshole. And you see the son say, get me the fuck out of here, you know? And I was looking at that and we were laughing. It was a number of people, like, we walked past the store and this guy I bumped into us running out of the door. And it's just like, dude, where are you going? Like, you gotta, like, at least you can't say, excuse me. And then I came back home and I went to start writing in my book. And I said to myself, oh, we're approaching the winter months, which to me symbolizes, if spring symbolizes new life, then winter would introduce a death, a seasonal death. And and I start believing that more and more when I say the seasonal death, because I know a lot of people don't prescribe to this, but I I'm beginning to believe that if we look to nature as ourselves, we'll come back and do things differently. Not right, wrong. I don't mind saying what I'm saying is, so I stopped looking at death as a finality, but as just a process, and there's such an energy, at least where I live, where people feel that they can't not move forward with that. Because everything prescribes to, this is the life, this is it, this is it. Ooh, I tell you so. But anyway, I won't sing. I won't destroy you guys' ears with that. But one of the things that I realize is that when you live, and also how many people are around you that you can perceive that are living to die. How many people around you are living to die in this world reality of death? I went to a birthday party this weekend and I had the time of my life. And uh, people asked me a question about, well, when are you retiring? And I would like to get up some mornings and not go anyplace and just like fiddle around. And I do that sometimes. I'm not gonna lie, I get to do that, but not like consistently. But at the same time, I would get really bored with that. And so I don't know if I will ever retire as such.
Yeah. Can you say more about living to die?
So there's the whole concept that I came up with, living to live or living to die. Living to live is waking up in total choice of things going to be greater than I ever fucking imagined. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy every day, but the whole word, remember I said imagine, the kid-like energy of imagination, especially during these holidays. When you look at kids in the mall, I like going, like that was one of the highlights in Walmart, is watching kids running up and down the mall, all over the store, like, oh my God, Santa Claus, Santa Claus, which I find to be kind of interesting lie. But uh, even though I bought the hat, but those kids have the imagination that all is good. There's, how does it get fucking better than this? I'm about to have the time of my life. Life is an adventure. There's so much joy. Uh, what else is possible for me to choose that my life is going to be so fucking amazing? And even though I might have some sucky parents or some sucky situation, I still have this possibility of living in the moment of enjoyment. That's living to live, this being present with things. Living to die is living chronologically. I get to 50, I get to 60, I retire, I stop moving, I stop doing certain things, and I fucking just expire like bad milk.
Like
That's
bad what?
milk. Expiration date, sour. And you notice how people start to get kind of sour. And I made an agreement with Earth in the universe that I'm not going to choose that. I'm gonna be like an elephant. When I'm straight time for me, I'm just gonna drive someplace and poof. I'm gonna go off and just do my thing, become worm food. And I know that sounds crazy, and I don't want people, and some people might, oh, this is kind of morbid, and that's even to the point of living to death, when you can't talk about the transitional period. So we'll have all these celebrations for when a baby, when you, if you got pregnant, Lila, right now, and all I'm saying, oh my God, I don't even know. I know you might be not okay. Okay, she's looking like, what the fuck? No, what do I know anyway? If
Tell her to calm down. She doesn't get to come this time.
yeah, so if we talk about that, everybody gets excited. We send you cards. We prepare in 9 months, and we do all this celebration, and everybody gets excited. And people like make music, people dance, their photographs. But at the other end of the spectrum, my grandmother said something that was kind of amazing to me. Heaven is my home, but I'm not homesick. My
Mhm.
question to people, have you ever taken a peek at the other side? Now, I know this is going to go against some people's faith, maybe, and I'm not, maybe it won't. But what I'm saying is, let me preface it with this. I have 3 people in my life that are really, really fucking close to me. And they battle with health things, which uh, can take them out of here. And so I I realize that the finality of life is a gift. And I'm saying this truly, like it is a fucking gift because I've realized, feel like Dr. King, I've been to the mountaintop and I realize that it's a transition. And scientists are also beginning to realize that it's a transition. And I'm wondering how people would live their end days if they realized it was just simply a transition. And with some of the spookiness, scariness, and the weight of living to die, like living to die, oh, well, I'm going to eat this, I'm going to do this because I'm going away anyway, is living to die compared to living to live to me.
So the thing that that whole thing sparked for me is that I actually do have that point of view that like there is something else. This is not
Hmm.
just the end.
Yes.
But unlike your grandma, I am nostalgic to be there. And I have found that to be an interesting thing. And the way that I coped thus far with it was like, I want to say it's an external purpose,
Hmm.
but I also feel like some people have an internal drive
Hmm.
that seems completely irrational. Like, I'm not talking about like the Serena and Venuses and Beyonces of the world whose parents like groomed them and trained them from like ye high to be whatever genius. I'm talking about my kid who 16 years into life can still tell you like there are snails that live inside volcanic vents
Hmm.
and they have a shell on them
Hmm.
that protects them from the heat of the volcanoes.
Hmm.
I went to him and was like, "Oh my God, Lucas, did you know this thing?" He was like, "Yeah," and then spouted off 35 more facts about this thing.
Hmm.
Not because anybody taught him, but because that is his interest and his
Hmm.
passion and his genuine curiosity
Hmm.
leads him to things like this. So for me, it was a specific vision and dream that I was like holding.
Hmm.
And I feel like, and again, I'm going to preface this with this could be the burnout talking, but what happens when that thing doesn't exist anymore?
What thing doesn't exist anymore?
The the external dream.
Uh, so what for me? I'm only speaking
Mhm.
for me. Let me let you finish. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying that like this whole time for decades and decades and decades, part of what kept me here was this external thing. This I'll eventually get it, I'll eventually have it, I'll eventually get there, I'll eventually be there. And then I ran into a like, it's not gonna happen. And so now I just there are no
So,
appealing exit buttons.
so Michael Franti wrote in a song. Let me get this right. Every single soul is a poem in the palm of God's hand. Every single soul is a poem in the palm of God's hand.
I love the way you say poem.
You and I have never met in person,
Yet, please hold. 2023. Carry on.
and and you have the capacity of when I've been wigged the fuck out John, how you doing? I'm just calling. What's going on? Well, yeah. Have you ever thought about this? What about that? Well, I don't know. Let me see this picture of this. Let me see this medicine. This like so my piece of why I'm saying that is that if we were willing to be present with everything that's there with us, truly what Michael Franti wrote is true, and it never really burns out, is because we're not, you know how bees go from one flower to the next flower and pollinate each other? We're not being pollinated by each other. The wind's not blowing, the bees are not flying. And
That's deep.
and the piece about that is that because this reality has it set up to be very scary. Where is the light in death? Where is and the reason I say that is because my Nigerian brothers, sisters in Ifa, I found out is that everything that we come and do, we choose. And Access Consciousness talked about it, but years before I got in Access, I knew that to be true because they were like, you chose your parents before you got here. And the first time I was like, well, cool for me. But what about my partner over there who got the fucked up parents? But it's not a fucked up parents if you look at the scope of everything. If I look at just this right now, I just see you on the screen. I can't see your house. I can't see if it's snow outside. I can't see what you got in your fridge. I can't see what you have in your bedroom. I can just see you. So my scope of Lila is this. But if I span out, if I come to your house, I can say, oh my God, I can feel the vibration. And I think that that's what happens with this thing, that we go on judgment of all things. And death is that biggest, that's the end. You better get yours now. When I was at Walmart yesterday, for people to be in a pre-holiday season, in a holiday season, there was a whole lot of get the fuck away from me. I hate fuck. I mean, like the husband and wife was, and what happens is that I also believe is because we don't talk about things. Like people, like when I said this, all things death, I was like, I know it's a lot of people, it's probably gonna have the fewest amount of people who come and watch this because what the fuck are you talking about that for? Why are they talking about death? Because it's loaded. It's one of those things that loads people and it scares the fuck out of people. And if you sit with it, so I've been doing meditation with my brother Bernie for 20 something years. And he told me when I first started, this is a practice that will help you have an easier transition to the next phase. And I was done this, and I was like in my 20s when I maybe 30. I was like 30 years old, and I was like, this is fucking dope. What do you mean? You go to the gym so I can have a healthy life. Why not have a practice that helps you have a transition so you can be more present with the transition? Ooh, now you start lightening up the whole concept of this transition. Now, my daughter's gonna beat me up, and some of my family don't know this, so they're gonna have to. So my daughter came over Thanksgiving, the night before Thanksgiving, and we cooked up a storm. And some of you guys are gonna be able to see this on Facebook or wherever pretty soon when my team put this out. So while we were cooking, she came and she started telling me about her health. And then she took her shirt and she showed me on her heart where she had this monitor on her heart. She's 23 years old. And being the cream puff dad that I am, I start crying. And then I realize that if she has to go, will I cry? Fuck yeah. Will I be sad? Fuck yeah. But being present with the presence I've had with her now and forever she chooses to be here is what my focus will be now. Not that, oh my God, it's the end. No, some people might want to get out of like I have a whole different concept of people commit suicide. It's just too fucking much. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get the fuck out of here. You know, and we can't celebrate. We truly can't celebrate difference in this reality yet. without attacking it and being so energetically non-available for ourselves. And I say that because there was here's the piece of another sort of death that I can understand why people are like, ugh, this is so yucky. I was on Instagram and somebody or one of the reels, it was this Caucasian brother at the airport in Seattle. And he was walking around, he was really upset. He kept on going, Heil Hitler, Heil Hitler, Heil Hitler, Heil Hitler. And the venom's coming out of this guy. One, I could tell he was losing his shit. But also, capacity I have, I could see such loss in this grown ass kid's life that I understood. I don't agree, but I understood where he was coming from because everything around him is not making sense because what he was told. And and people, I don't, I mean, I wasn't co-signing on it, but I watched it a couple of times because I'm the type of cat that, okay, I'm gonna watch and hear what this guy's saying. He was going around and it looked like he was gonna stroke out, and he was like, and what happens is he was also saying, I just wanted to get the fuck out of here because I hate myself. And I'm gonna portray that on you. I'm a, what's that? Forecast that to you. And I think it's because we fucked up this end game, like in the Avengers movie. We fucked up the end game of like some of the Avengers came back. And in my story, everybody gets to come back when they choose they want to come back. It's not a true end game. Have you ever sat with somebody and you be like, I know that person from a previous lifetime?
All the time.
Yeah, like you. I was like, okay, how? Like when I tell people, like Lila, I was like, oh no, I've never met the sister yet before. And like, huh? But the vibe you would think we had,
Yeah.
and that's also being willing to let go of that other aspect. So when I'm saying about all things death, notice your trees. Notice how the transition has happened as fall moves to winter. And can you see the beauty in that? And I at times struggle with that, the darkness and stuff like that. I'm a sun guy.
Oh yeah.
And the issue with it is I have to go see sun midtime because I'm a Hawaiian flower. I need sun more than I need darkness. Okay, but I do need darkness. I do need that darkness. I do need to experience that death season. And I think that once people start to,
Yeah, but you got all of it. You got like dark
huh?
and cold and wet.
Yeah, but very little sunshine.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
think
very little
that,
sunshine.
so we had snow like a month ago, surprisingly and unexpectedly, and a ton of it,
Yeah,
but we don't really get snow this time of year. Like,
yeah.
you get a lot of snow for a long time and it's cold as fuck over there.
No, no, we don't. We don't
Oh,
get
okay, good.
we don't
Okay,
get any
good.
snow hardly at all.
Okay.
We get a lot of rain.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of rain, but not. I mean, we're not in the mountains will, but
Okay.
not the valley. I
Gotcha.
mean, you all get a lot more snow than us,
Okay. All right.
uh, except on top of Mount Hood. But anyway, that whole death thing. I hope that makes sense to people. I hope I didn't spook y'all the fuck out. But it's like I challenge people to look at that. Where are we making? And it's such, and especially for my brothers and sisters at 50's door, where do you get the information that you have to stop living? Where do you get the point that death, I mean, that I'm coming up to my 50's and I have to stop living? I'm at 60, I have to get old. What program are we buying? You know, and I say that because this weekend I went to my partner's birthday party, and everybody kept on asking me like I'm here at work, like when are you retiring? Like I said this earlier, I don't know if I will ever retire completely. I don't think I have it in me. I think, like I said, when I retire, I'll drive off someplace like an elephant and just go die someplace. But I'm not going to fucking like, you know, uh, and I shared this, and my wife got kind of upset with me saying this. I don't need to live to be an old ripe age if I'm not participating.
For
That's,
sure.
I mean, real talk. I don't need to take up people's air and food, you know, if I'm not, yeah. And I say that because I realize that people are held here captive because of other people's energy of them not wanting to be gone selfishly.
For
And
sure.
and I've been looking at that with my family members. So like I'm not wishing any death upon anybody, but I don't want anybody to fucking stay here on planet Earth that are miserable. I think that's selfish just for my own good. So I can see your ass if you land with a tube up your ass. That's not living to me.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm being judgmental, or is it a fucking awareness? But I don't know. I was just like, you know, and especially because this whole idea of spirit and entity and being able to communicate and play with that energy, realizing that just because somebody leaves embodied, what is the gift of spirit with them?
Yeah, that's such an interesting thing. And we're at times we can talk about it in the future,
Yes.
but I had that experience with both my mom and my poet, where
Your who?
like my poet and
Okay.
they've been evoked, they're here.
Okay.
Um, but their deaths were vastly different experiences for me. My mom died, and I was like, oh, good, she's not in pain anymore. Because my mom was miserable for decades. Her life was
Mhm.
incredibly fucking hard, and she couldn't manage to make it better for herself. And the second she was this close to doing it, life was like, actually, nope, you don't get to have that. I was sad for her. So, her out of her body, out of misery, was relieving for
Yeah.
me. Was I sad? Of course I was. My kids didn't have a grandma anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, I was relieved, A, that my mom was out of pain, and B, that I wasn't caretaking her anymore because that
Yeah.
shit's exhausting.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, my poet died, and I cried from the second I found out for 6 straight weeks. I cried so much that today, 8 years later,
Yeah.
if I mention him, my daughter will be like, "Are you okay? Don't cry."
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And
it's
I,
the
and I,
same
but I
thing.
think that's I
Like,
think both I think that's healthy on both ends.
yeah, but it's the same thing. Like, he also wasn't happy here,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
grateful that he gets to teleport. I'm also a little jealous,
Yeah.
but also, um, still 8 years later, I miss him.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna pick up the phone
Yeah.
and call him again. I'm never going to like I get to drive into Memphis and he's not there. And
Yeah.
that's like,
Yeah. Yeah. That physical. Yeah. And that's cool too. It's like to me, and I know we got to go. I'm gonna turn to the pumpkin in a couple seconds, but poof, here's some pumpkin pie. Uh, Also, the seasonal thing, like I have a persimmon. Let me just grab this real quick. Ugh.
I've never had a persimmon.
I find it in my bag. This is a persimmon from my backyard.
It looks like a tomato and an orange had a baby.
Yes. I show you that because in my backyard, if you look at the persimmon tree, it was vibrant a couple of weeks ago. And now all the leaves are gone. And it's like this. But it's fruit. I'm going to be able to eat and have two more because nobody in my house like them but me. And then it will be a memory that I'll sit back and like, oh, I showed this to you people on Facebook. I grew it. I put food on the tree. And so there was a process of spinning with it. But once these are gone, the other two are gone, that season is over until next year.
Yeah.
And then I lived in the memory of like, oh, the savory taste, because it's hard to describe the taste between an apple and orange and a strawberry, and like, oh wow. And so what I'm saying is that if people would be more present, be willing to be present with being really present with life and living, the transition is a tad bit simpler because you also understand energetic. You can go back and forth and play with it. And I can sit back and be like, do you remember when I showed you that? Oh, that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, what you got coming up the next week?
Uh, I have anything coming up in the next week. I do have one-to-one spaces. However, um, Feast, January. There will be pages coming, but reach out to me now if you're interested.
Yeah. And I have a foundation class coming up January 13th for 4 days.
Do
Here,
foundation with John.
yes, here in the Northwestern campus for anybody who cares. That's coming out. Maureen's on here. Maureen doesn't know that. I've just decided that though. Uh, and I have tons of stuff. Please go to my website, people. Tomorrow,
BeingJohnAsher.com.
yeah, please, 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 please. And check me out tomorrow night on Culinary Wonderment with Being John Ashford on YouTube and have an orgasmic experience. Uh, and until next week, lovely people, deuces, peace.
Bye, friends.